Hello, everyone. Welcome to Investigating Modern MBA, or as we like to call it, IIM MBA, hosted by none other than IIM Sirmaur. I hope you all are doing fantastically fine today, and I welcome you all to the first ever episode of IIM MBA with open arms. We created this podcast for people to learn, and you coming to this episode, if you get even the slightest of your value added in your life, we will be the happiest people alive. So be seated, put on your earphones, and open your brains for a lot of information which is coming your way. So this particular episode comes under the segment of interrogating industries. And in this segment, we call in industry professionals who are working in the corporate or in their domains to talk to them about MBA, management, organizations, industry insights, of course, and many more. So today's guest is Dr. Aman Bhonsle, who is a psychotherapist, a practicing psychotherapist, and also an MBA. So the conversation is going to be amazing. So I won't be taking much of your time. Let's directly dive into the conversation and learn something new. Come on. Hi, Dr. Aman. How are you?
Hi, how's it going, Dhruv? All is well?
I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm all good.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while. So, as we start with this episode, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience first, and then we can directly dive into the conversation.
All right, so hi everyone, this is Dr. Aman Bhonsle. I'm a practicing psychotherapist, relationship counselor, and youth coach. My practice runs out of Mumbai. I am attached to the Heart to Heart Counseling Center, which my family and I run together. And yeah, Dhruv and I ran into each other at a seminar I was conducting, and this is my second appearance on a podcast that he is doing. And the last one was incredibly well received among many people I know, including students, clients, family, friend. Everyone just had fun. So I'm here to just enjoy myself and just have a conversation with Dhruv. So that's my introduction.
Perfect. And it's been great talking to you in the previous episode as well. So, okay. So, sir, to start with, even you are an MBA, right?
Yeah.
And you've also worked in the field of advertising, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
So, yeah, so being an MBA and working in the field of advertising, and also now as you are practicing psychotherapist, I'm sure that you have developed a few philosophies regarding this domain of management, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it. First of all, to start with, I want you to give me one most fascinating and one most depressing fact about this particular domain that you think.
So one fascinating fact about management is that management doesn't just begin in the classroom, it begins in all areas of your life. You have to manage time, you have to manage your relationships, you have to manage your workload, you have to manage your expectations, and you have to also manage how wide your mouth opens to give out information. So there is,
Correct.
so much that has to be managed. So when we look at the management sciences, I think one of the fascinating things about the management sciences is that it has turned the art of sort of arranging various pieces of your life into a subject of study. And how do
Mm,
you not just manage your own priorities and work, but how do you work in tandem with people of different talents, different temperaments, different cultures, and how do all of y'all come together and weave together something truly fun, truly enduring, that gets work done, that gets priorities looked at. So how do you do it? Right? I think that's one of the fascinating things about the management sciences, and the
yeah.
fact that everyone has an opportunity to do an MBA, even if you don't get into a good college or one of the premier institutions. There are fast track MBA programs, there are shorter courses, and the actual subjects, many of them that are taught in an MBA program, can also be learned using any ed tech platform of your choice. You can still learn how to write a business plan, how to run a marketing campaign, how to run a PR campaign. And you can also, join the actual world of work and learn on the
Mm,
job. So it's a very, I believe, very open and welcoming discipline for people from all walks of life. So it's not just someone who's great at studies who can, learn the management sciences per se. So yeah, that's what I think is one of the advantages of you know the accessibility and the universal application of an MBA program in today's
Mhm.
day and age. And the second question was what? The disadvantages, right?
Yeah, a depressing fact about management as a domain.
I think what's depressing is sometimes the people that get attached to management. Sometimes what happens is snootiness and the use of complicated jargon has become synonymous with the management sciences. So, if you speak in a way that nobody understands, not even your clients or colleagues or friends or family members, no one understands what you're saying. It means, oh, he's talking about something very, complicated and very deep and extremely niche in terms of management. So this kind of snooty approach to conversation is one of the downsides. So it's not so much a problem with management as it's a problem with those in charge of management, the management, so to speak. And
Get it.
there's this slang where you say, "Oh, he's an MBA type
Yeah,
individual." So that goes on to say, "Oh, this is someone who thinks no end of himself, wears a crisp shirt, and doesn't believe in crisp dialogue, just has a crisp shirt and fancy things to go along with it." So that's one of the unfortunate byproducts of something that I believe was so accessible once, but now that has become a sort of big boys club with time, because of standardized testing as well. Because some people don't test well, they're just not good at exams, but they are great managers, they're natural leaders, they're really good with money, and they have some wonderful ideas that they'd like to, test out. But unfortunately, they couldn't crack the common entrance examinations, and either they were deprived of a management education or they were told that only a special crop of people can be students in a management program, whereby that is not the case.
so moving forward, as you take patients, do you see managers coming in?
I think many managers um, and employees at the junior and mid-level coming for counseling and psychotherapeutic help. They have all kinds of issues. It's not just work-related challenges,
Mhm.
it's also how to manage issues within their marriages, or how to sort of deal with their own expectations of themselves. They get very competitive, they start doubting themselves. And also, a lot of organizations are structured in a way to have very punishing schedules. So the
Mhm.
organizations are not aligned with the idea of holistic wellness. The organization's idea of wellness is get the damn job done and don't go about expecting anything other than a handshake and pat on the back, that too occasionally, you know.
Correct.
So a lot of organizations don't believe in things like an employee needs time to exercise, or an employee needs, extra leave days, where they can have longer holidays, or that sick days you cannot be just given 5 6 days sick days a year, like, oh, so you're expected to not be sick for more than just 5 days. So that's ridiculous, right? So it's a complex network of human expectations and human effort. Any organization is structured that way. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of problems, and it's not just management, it's everyone.
Okay, so what do you see applying to managers when they come as a patient to you?
Well, I think they need to learn to mostly understand that the organization is not the entirety of your life. The organization is one part of your life. Doing a job or performing a function or being true to a role, right, is
Yeah.
just one facet of what your life is about. Primarily,
Hmm.
you're a human being here on this planet to explore all the various avenues of knowledge and growth and learning that are available uniquely to you as a person, as a member of the human species. We have to find interesting ways to make our lives, adaptable, and we have to find interesting ways to make ourselves useful in the given, economic landscape. But what happens is when we start making work synonymous with the whole idea of being a human being, and there's nothing more that is left. as a human being,
Mm.
apart from being alive just to work,
Yeah.
which is quite unfortunate. So there's no time for fun, there's no time for travel, there's no time for family, there's no time for health, there's no time for romance. You're just like a robot. So
Mm.
a lot of burnout clients who are just burnt out, they no longer know why they are doing the job or for whom or what is the outcome of them working so hard. And and that is one of the problems. Also, a lot of workplace politics, people trying to pull each other down, spread misinformation, create very arbitrary guidelines to run a certain initiative, and it becomes like a turf war. This is my territory, and this is uh, somewhere you do not walk. So that's also one of the unfortunate byproducts of human beings working in close proximity with each other in an organization. There are egos, there are mismatched agendas, there is burnout, and there is no clarity on why are we doing what we are doing. We're just doing it because everyone else is doing it, or because we are told that this is what we are supposed to do in order to be good human beings. I don't think this idea that a good human being is one who is only working is a very functional way of looking at human beings. I had read this somewhere a long time ago. It says you're a human being, so just be. Sometimes all you have to do is be, do nothing. You're not a human doing who has to constantly be assigned to a task, a mission, a goal, some kind of KPI or KRA, right? Key
Right.
performance index or key result areas. Sometimes you should just allow yourself to explore the world, experiment a little bit, make mistakes, go off the trail, off road a little bit. But that costs money, money that no one wants to spend, and time that no one wants to spare, and resources that no one wants to look at, and egos that no one wants to ruffle, which is why this whole idea that if you're working and if you're succeeding, you're somehow living the human dream correctly. And if you're not doing it, somehow you're a failure.
So, do you see a problem with the concept of organization, or is it just the human beings with their common psychology playing into the picture of working together in a close proximity, as you like to say?
No, not an organization has to set a tone and a culture that is
Mm-hmm.
conducive to sustained happiness of everyone involved. But now here's the problem. Different things make different people happy.
Hmm.
I remember an incident. My wife teaches young children. So there was this group of young girls who came to visit my wife to give her some chocolates, and they're sisters. And one of them tells my wife that, oh, my sister won the diya making contest, but she took only 15 minutes to make a diya, and I took half an hour and I didn't win the contest. And I'm wondering here that diyas associate with Diwali. Diwali is a festival celebrated to sort of look at that story, right? That famous story of Ramayana where good won over evil. A man went into hell to rescue his wife and come back. So the city he returned to, after many years of being away in the jungle and risking his life, was lit up with diyas to celebrate his return, the triumph of good over evil. And now somehow it's become an excuse for 8-year-olds to fight about their ability to do art. I found that just so perverse and so strange and sad that here's what it's come to. Two sisters aren't able to get along because one person got a little trophy for making a better looking diya and the other did not get the trophy. So now they will not get along. So you see what the purpose of a diya is, to
Hmm.
illuminate, to
Correct.
bring joy, to celebrate victory, versus what it has become, to hate each other, to compete with each other, and to compare workmanship. It's
Yeah.
strange, isn't it? So things start off as one thing and they become something completely else. And this is one of the human problems is we don't remember why we are assigned to a certain task or to a certain activity. We forget the mission and we get embroiled in things like strategy, in things like profitability. So this big picture thinking has gone missing for a very long time, and that is one of the inherent human problems. We get easily distracted and out of focus. And in
Hmm.
that disoriented state, we start troubling each other, poking each other, doubting each other, messing with each other, arm twisting each other, frustrating each other, shouting at
Right.
each other. ignoring each other, and spreading misinformation or sabotaging someone else's work. People have forgotten why they are here. The reason you go to work is to earn a living and to sort of solidify your identity in a larger space. But what it has become about, oh, I go to the office to make friends. I go to the office to, uh, create some kind of power play for myself. What they've forgotten is that you go to office so that you have something to do with your time, so that you earn some respectability for yourself in your own eyes, and you get paid for your efforts with which you can buy things and, you know, address the general problems of living in a civilized society, like paying electricity bills, paying your taxes, paying your society maintenance charges, paying your phone bills, your gas bills. Right? I remember someone once said, adulthood is all about writing checks.
Mhm.
You know, essentially, that's the only difference between a child and an adult. The adult writes the checks. We have lost the way. It's not that we don't have knowledge or we don't have interesting ideas or we don't have talented people. We have
Mhm.
forgotten how to bring decency, perseverance, tolerance, kindness. We've forgotten how
Mhm.
to bring these things to the world of business. And that to me is a huge problem. And very often that kindness has to be directed not outside, but also inwards. Are you happy
Mhm.
doing what you do, the hours you work, the salary you work at, the type of imbalance that may be getting created? Are you concerned about it at all? Because it will extract a cost in your health, in your relationships, and in so many other areas of your life over time. It may not be visible at first.
Okay, so as you talk about happiness, there's this one interesting fact that Bhutan as a country, they have this concept of looking at GNH, that is national happiness. And
Mm.
where we look at GDP for our development, they look at GNH, that is gross national happiness. And particularly at that point of concept, there's this one dichotomy as well, that the countries who have a higher GNH, that is gross national happiness, they also tend to have a relatively high suicidal rates. What is your take on that?
So what you're saying is those who are measuring happiness
Yeah.
are countries where suicides are higher.
Yes.
This is interesting to me. See, the reason a person ends their life is because something about their lives is not measuring up to their expectations from life, which
Mhm.
means that these metrics of measuring happiness are also creating some kind of perverse competitive dynamic, perhaps in them, that I am not happy in comparison to someone else who I know is happy. So my
Mhm.
happiness is 50 to 60% lesser than that of my neighbor or my first cousin or the person who I used to work with. So you see, as human beings, we've even turned being happy into a contest, perhaps. Maybe that's what's happened. And because I am not as happy as the next happy person, that means I'm not happy at all. You see how ugly it has become, that even your happiness has been put on a measuring scale. That is our problem. We cannot sit at peace without putting something on a measuring scale, without creating some kind of benchmark or yardstick. I say, why measure happiness at all? Happiness is to be enjoyed. You don't
Mhm.
have to measure everything or, quantify everything. Some things are just meant to be experienced, and that's about it. The reason things are measured is because you want to study them at a later time, or you want to understand how much input or output is optimal for a
Right.
certain situation to come into effect. I believe
Mhm.
that happiness need not be measured at all. Happiness is just something to be experienced quietly and discreetly without making a huge advertisement of it. Why do you have to tell the world how happy you are? Well, you can share a few things on Instagram. I do that too, no problem. But it should not become a compulsion to measure your happiness on and meter it and clock it. Because there is no such thing as the happiness Olympics where the happiest person wins a medal, right?
Right.
But practically every other test of physical endurance and every other acrobatic and athletic skill is put on a scale, and
Mhm.
trophies are awarded, and celebrities are born, and advertising spaces are sold, and broadcast and satellite rights and OTT rights are sold for crores and crores of rupees. Because we have found a way to quantify things and turn it into a way to earn money. That's how sophisticated we are
Hmm.
at turning
Hmm.
everything into a reason to profit or a reason to look at.
Make money.
Yeah.
Hmm. So,
Why are people killing themselves? We don't know. We'll have to interview the families. We cannot make broad stroke statements about connecting or because the happiness index is high, that's why they're killing themselves. We don't know because why an individual decides to end their life, what misery, what disappointment, what guilt, jealousy, frustration, abuse awaits behind those curtains will always be unknown to you and to me unless someone comes and shares that data with us.
I want your viewpoint on this particular aspect where Bhutan as a country is looking at GNH as their measure of development, and we look at GDP as our measure of development. So, what do you think? Should a country actually look at the happiness index or the gross national happiness, as they say, as a measure of development, or that will just lead to the same scenario which is happening in Bhutan and different countries with higher HNH, GNH?
Well, I'm no statistician or I don't come from a world of mathematics, so I don't see the appeal of wanting to measure happiness.
Mhm.
I, as a psychotherapist, feel happiness is something that can just be experienced privately to give you some stability in a rather random, chaotic world. You know, we all live in different circumstances. So I'm not perhaps the right person to comment on this, on whether this kind of statistic and its maintenance is required. I suppose it comes from a noble and wonderful place of wanting to put happiness above the need to be productive.
Mhm.
And that to me is interesting. That thought that we measure the success of our country based on happiness rather than the physical or economic output of its citizens. As a concept, it's very nice.
Mhm.
But if you are saying that the suicide rates are up, then well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Then someone somewhere has to look at whether we are creating competitive environment for how happy is too happy and how sad is too sad, which I think
Right.
turns it again into something extremely unnecessarily weighty.
Yeah, that's actually critical. So, a few days back, I was talking to my OBHRM teacher in the college, and I asked him this one question that why is this the case? He actually told me about it. So I asked him that why is this the case? So he gave me this one theory which says the name of the theory is relative deprivation theory. So basically, the concept which is happening in countries like Bhutan is that people actually are very happy around you, right? So as you see happiness around yourself, the sadness actually graviates. What do you say? If I am a sad person and I see people more happy around me, then my sadness will become, will aggravate.
Mm. Because in your head, you are now comparing your happiness levels with those of the people around you. So that's precisely what I was saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was not using the term the theory. I didn't have a theory to it. But as I
Yeah.
said, when you turn something into a competition, you're no longer
Hmm.
just enjoying it. It's like the diya making competition. Like suddenly making a beautiful diya to celebrate Diwali has turned into a reason for two sisters to hate each other and get
Hmm.
upset with each other. They may get over it, they're children, but why does everything have to be turned into a competition? Why can't everyone just enjoy what they do it well, do it with respect, do it with pride, do it with a certain adherence to craftsmanship and love of the art? Everything is an
Correct.
art. Running a podcast is an art. Interviewing is an art. Just do it for the love of the art. Why does everything have to be put on a scale? I'll never understand because that's just how I was raised. I went to a J. Krishnamurti school where the whole idea of competition was sort of knocked out of our heads. That everyone is good at different things and everyone discovers their natural talents at different times and seasons of their lives. So there's no
Yes.
need to pit one child against the other in certain disciplines. So yeah, don't
That
measure your happiness. Don't measure your happiness. Experience your happiness and tell no one about it. Experience it quietly and live a good life.
that actually makes sense, right? Perfect. Also, coming back to management.
Yeah.
So, as you rightly mentioned, that managers have this hectic schedule, stressful life, and also time constraints attached to everything which they do, right?
Yeah.
So what is your take on that and how to tackle it better from a psychotherapist's point of view?
Well, you got to lobby hard to get some balance in your life. So join an organization that has a, proactive take on what employee wellness looks like. Is employee wellness just doing your job well and vying for a promotion or a pay raise, or is employee wellness also, being healthy, having tough conversations within your team? So that's essentially falls under PNO, people and organization, or the HR department. So apart from, a Rangoli making competition, or, uh, you know, table tennis leagues and bowling leagues, beyond organizing that, there are other ways to bring people together and create, philosophical discourse about what is the meaning of your place here in the organization. So I feel these things sound very lofty and idealistic, and mostly they don't ever take off because we're so conditioned to be on a, as I said, on a timeline or on a scale. So it's complicated. As a manager, you ultimately succumb to the tone and the tempo that is being set by your manager. There's always someone
Mhm.
sitting above you, isn't it? There's an overlord always sitting above you. And
Yes.
ultimately, you have to dance to the tunes that they are playing on their jukebox, right? So what are you going to do? Which is why a lot of people choose entrepreneurship, get into the startup game, or become consultants, because they don't like the idea of someone sitting, tall above them, pulling
Mhm.
strings.
Right. Okay. So with this answer, I get these 2 points to talk about. One is leadership and one is organization. So we started the answer with organization. So let's talk about organization first.
Yeah,
So I had this one idea that whenever I'll start an organization of myself, because I want to be an entrepreneur. So whenever I start an organization for myself, I'll make sure that people there work with me and not for me. And
sure.
also, there was this one idea that I will never create a human resource department in that organization. I will call it humans department.
Nice.
Right. So even after these many initiatives and these plans and these ideas have been rolling out in the market as well. So not exactly by these names, but these ideas have been in the market. These ideas have been in the heads of managers. Even after this,
Yeah.
do you feel an organization can be created by prioritizing human happiness?
Well, here's the challenge. Different situations and different things make different people happy. So, one standard definition of happiness does not
Mhm.
exist. So, one standard organization that puts happiness at the center, its own idea of happiness at the center, cannot exist. Someone may say, I'm happy when I don't have to work. How are you going to do business then? Someone will
Hmm.
say, I'm happy if I get 3 months off every year with pay. How are you going to get work done? Someone may say, I will be happy if I don't have a manager sitting above me. Then who will hold you accountable? Right? So what happens is, yes, some standardization is required, but I think wellness needs to be created as a sort of template. And there are all kinds of things that take place. You have, team building, team bonding, offsites, all possible. If you go to the Google office, for example, it's like a campus. It's got young people. It's got, a lot of free coffee and food and lots of things like that.
Yeah.
Stuff that somebody may enjoy because it's available and it's for everyone. So in trying to create community-based, campus-based experiences, yeah, you can to some degree encourage the idea of loyalty. But
Mhm.
then also such organizations are very, particular about performance. Either you perform or you are out. We will pay you more, but we will also sweat you more as a result of that. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, any business is a business that needs to be profitable to continue in the market. So sometimes profitability comes at a very sad cost, in that
Mhm.
people are arm twisted and people are bullied and people are misled to prioritize their organization above their own well-being. You know, if you are sick or dying in a hospital, your HR representative does not hold your hand on the bed when you're there. It is your
Yeah.
family, it is your friend, it is your parent, your child, your wife. So who are you really living for? As I said, work is a tool and not a destination. That's how I look at things. It's a tool.
Mhm.
It's not the sole purpose of my existence on this planet. One of the many things I would like to partake in, and not all of it.
Hmm. Makes sense. Now, I think we should come to leadership. I got the answer to that question, and quite well, I guess. So, talking about leadership, as we talk about leaders, as we talk about leaders who are not MBAs, who are not management degree holders, but were great managers,
Yeah.
what do you think makes a good leader? And also, what are the traits which could be learned, and what are the traits which you're born with? And are there any traits which cannot be learned?
I think everything in essence is teachable. But there are
Okay.
certain tendencies and habits that every person, gets burdened with, you know. I think naturally good leaders are those who understand the pain of others. Naturally good leaders understand that different people, you know, answer to different callings in life, and that every individual must be deployed in a manner that plays to their natural strengths. This is what a good leader understands. And a good leader not only removes obstacles, but also preempts problems before they actually become problems.
Okay.
So, a good leader is both fortune teller and, massage therapist, you know, takes
Yeah.
away all those knots. So, a good leader needs to really love the idea of helping people succeed on their own terms. And those terms should share some common ground with what the organization also requires them to do, right? You participate in an organization, you don't surrender to an organization, you're not a slave to an organization. That would be the hope.
Hmm.
So, a good leader is empathetic, a good leader is decisive, a good leader is preemptive. A good leader, understands that failure is sometimes necessary for new research and new developments to come to light. So a good
Hmm.
leader is not like a strict parent. A good leader is more like a best friend who has read more, worked more, earned more than you, and is there to gently sort of put you where you belong to do your best work, not just for yourself, but for the health and profitability of the company to also be positively influenced due to their shepherding of you and your being part of the flock.
I'm also of the opinion that there are many unsung leaders who we witness on our day-to-day lives, but we cannot really applaud them or give them the entire credit for the work they do or for the leadership skills they show.
Yeah.
So, do you have any examples of such leadership which you have witnessed, or something which is very relatable with all of us?
I think mothers are life's first leaders, right? I
Hmm.
don't know, is that a very Bollywood thing to say?
Yeah.
But well, a mother is a leader who hasn't necessarily gone to a leadership summit or learned in a management school on the five desirable traits of a leader. And I do believe that leadership's first experience for any
Yeah.
human being is one that they experience at home. Because
Hmm.
all these things that I spoke about earlier, all of them are done first by a mother. She removes obstacles, she preempts problems, she understands that failure is a natural part of the growth process. She also sets targets, she also helps you discover what your strengths are. She also puts you in the right places, in the right initiatives to let you find your true voice and sort of sharpen your skill sets. These are all traits of a good leader. So, unfortunately, mothers don't get recognized, or they don't realize the the sheer magnitude of what their job entails, right? So a lot of people who aren't doing well in life, or people who are not at peace,
Hmm.
um, if you explore their past adequately, you will see that there has almost always been a failure of leadership at the home level. They were not given the right direction, the right power. They were not trusted. They were not, you know, uh, given the right tools to work with. They were not provided with a good working atmosphere. And that can lead to a lot of problems and dysfunctions and self doubt and pain and torment for an individual.
So you think that leadership is a skill that can be learned?
I think with enough exposure, yes, it can be learned. But I also believe that the idea of natural leaders is definitely something. I also believe that some people are just naturally good at it. But if you question why is this person naturally good at it and why is this person not, the answer
Mhm.
almost always goes back to how they were raised and what they saw within the confines of their own family. Did they see empathy, kindness, patience, sensitivity, trust, camaraderie? Or did they see jealousy, doubt, anger, finger pointing, guilt tripping? What did they see? So, what has become imbibed in their natural leadership style is largely what they were naturally subjected to.
Okay, now I want to talk about your work, your PhD. So you've got your PhD for your work on practical application of TA in organizational management and contemporary psychotherapy, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
Can we talk more about it? What exactly is it?
So, transactional analysis falls within the family of humanistic psychotherapy. It's a social model of understanding conflict and human personality traits within group settings. So, how does Dhruv Wardia, how does Aman Bhonsle behave differently when he's with three other people as opposed to when he's alone? So that
Hmm.
is what TA looks to understand, and TA believes that you can mine the human experience for great insights.
Okay.
For example, we have a concept in TA called hungers, so that all human beings are born with certain innate psychological hungers. For example, we
Yeah.
have something called recognition hunger, which is the desire to do remarkable things. Then you have something called incident hunger, which is the desire to be subjected to something interesting or novel, which is why people watch reality television. So,
Hmm.
one of the key ideas in my thesis was that what if we created organizations based on people psychologically profiled to have similar hungers. So
Okay.
if you have three people with recognition hunger, that means all three want to be recognized for their work. They will be matched in ambition and effort to see initiatives go through in a certain way. And I had also in my thesis spoken about this idea of uh, exploring early childhood trauma. So there's a concept in TA known as injunctions, which is secret messages that we give ourselves based on what we have experienced with our parents. For example, if a parent tells you to shut up all the time, the internal message or the injunction is don't be important, because every time you talk and you're asked to shut up, you're no longer in a position to speak because you tried to be important and you're not being allowed. So, how do we use early childhood trauma? How do we institutionalize therapy to make individuals within an organization more whole and more self aware of what internally is stopping them? So, these were
Hmm.
a few ideas I explored in my thesis on how to run organizations with more of an integration of mental health, insight on early childhood trauma, bunching people based on their hungers.
Yeah.
Uh, so, some ideas like that. Of course, it goes a lot deeper, but I'm trying to simplify this for those who are not familiar with the world of transactional analysis.
Now, as we talked about your work in transactional analysis and organizational management as well, you have also written some books.
Yes.
So, can you tell us what these books are about and how should a manager utilize those books to the optimum?
I've written a book called Essential TA, A Common Sense Psychology. I've also
Hmm.
co-authored Essential REBT with my mother. So what we have done with these books is we have tried to take very complicated concepts of psychology and really, really simplify them for someone who may want to even learn psychology on the side, just because it's interesting, just because through your learning of psychology, you learn about your own personality, you learn about your own preferences. Where do you largely make mistakes when you are dealing with other human beings? So my effort has been through my writing to make psychology sound less, you know, inaccessible, make it sound less posh, so to speak. Try to make
Mhm.
psychology sound less sciencey, you know,
Yeah.
so that people can just, pick up a book on psychology as a casual read. Even if you're
Okay.
12 years old, you can read a book on psychology, and it should be written in a way that is making the knowledge extremely simple for you, and you can apply it in your life. And those insights are, packed in my books. I also wrote a book called Sex Traps and Sex Scraps, which is a book on common relationship questions that people have related to their, sexual relationships and relationship problems. There's a column I write in the Free Press Journal. So I just took the question answers. It's like a digest. I thought it would be interesting to just put together a Q&A digest, which can be read from any page. So you don't
Mhm.
have to read chapters. You don't read the book um, in chronology. You can just open to any page and there's a question and an answer, question and an answer, question and an answer. So it's like a digest. So that was just a bit of an experiment that I did. I do feel there are many more book ideas in me even now. I want to write a book someday on maybe bullying and how to deal with it. I want to write a book someday about, how to deal with parent-child conflict. All that will eventually find its way to bookshelves, maybe. I hope, if I have the time and the bandwidth.
So, sir, coming towards the end, any suggestions for the young managers, the young leaders who will be taking their foot into the corporates very soon? What do
Yeah.
you think? What should they do to keep their mental health in sync and properly, aligned with their goals, with their career goals as well?
Understand that just as you require a good organization to work in, a good organization also is good because of its able workforce. So it is a
Mhm.
symbiotic relationship. It is not you with a begging bowl hoping that someone values you for how good you are. They also
Mhm.
need talent and hardworking and trustworthy people to take their organization to where they had envisioned it would go. So go with your head held high and know that mistakes will be made. So I always tell people, don't join an organization looking to make friends or find your wife. You are going there for a very specific mission. If friends are made, it is great. It makes life easier. But that is
Mhm.
not why you are going there. You are going there to perform a role, perform a function, and improve your chances of climbing up to better and more stable and more rewarding, responsibilities within the workforce. That should be the prime directive. And sometimes doing your job well means you may not be popular. And sometimes doing your job poorly means you may be more popular because now you're like everyone else who just enjoys long lunch breaks and coffee breaks. So understand why you are joining an organization first before joining it and understand that it's a symbiotic relationship. So you don't have to go in feeling very scared or intimidated or worried. Understand that their success has been built on the backs of people like you. So use that as a way to assure yourself that things work out if you are a true custodian of what knowledge sits within you. And knowledge is useless without its application. So knowledge has to be married with, practice. And only then, as the years build up, can you, clock in as an expert someday. And then experts get paid, experts get recognized, and experts feel good about their ability to solve problems for themselves and for everyone else. So consider yourself someone who is training to be an expert. Just because you've stepped out of the classroom doesn't mean you've stopped being a student. Be a student even in the organization. Learn, shadow the right people, ask questions, learn from everyone's good qualities. It doesn't matter if they're your seniors or at the same level as you or your subordinates. Everyone has some very admirable qualities that you can learn from. So stay inspired and stay, focused. That's what I would say.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Amal. It was great talking to you, and it was a great insight into the management world from a psychotherapist's point of view.
Absolutely, Dhruv. I had fun, and we should do this again sometime.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And for the audience, thank you so much for listening to IIM MBA. This was our first episode with none other than Dr. Aman Bhonsle, a psychotherapist. And we will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. Be a great manager.